We're all aware of how the tone of Attack on Titan shifted dramatically after the basement reveal, but Season 4 was not the first time a new season of the show created such a shift in its tone. Season 3 did it first, where we went from fights such as humans versus monsters or monsters versus monsters to humans versus humans, which is something more grounded and rooted in reality. The introduction of Kenny Ackerman and his anti-personnel squad threw the members of the Survey Corps into greater turmoil, as they now had to kill living, breathing humans, and not just mindless monsters or their teammates who seemingly turned out to be traitors. Politics was ushered to the forefront, and Kenny enjoyed a great deal of spotlight in the arc, as his actions, abilities, and story led to the revelation of several secrets about the Ackerman clan as well as the founding Titan. He brought in a new steampunk flair with his future in the past design, and had other characters beating around the bush to unravel information and save their friends by partaking in espionage missions. And although Kenny was smart enough to stay 2 steps ahead of everyone, he was only able to execute his moves and ideas because his anatomy allowed him to be greater than most of the characters. Who is Kenny Ackerman? The third most prominent member from the Ackerman bloodline, as per the story, Kenny Ackerman is introduced to us as someone who works with the Military Police Brigade's 1st Interior Squad. What makes this surprising is his long history of standing against the military police. Back in his heyday, Kenny used to be a serial killer living within the capital of the walls. As he would often use a knife to silence the throats of those in the military police, he gained the notorious nickname of Kenny the Ripper. Kenny most probably grew up in the underground city where poverty and crime were rampant. This made him more susceptible to becoming a criminal. Due to the persecution of his clan, the members stopped educating their future generations about the truth of the world and their bloodline in order to protect them from being killed. However, the slaughter didn't stop, and the once glorious Ackerman family was reduced to either living within the underground city or by the outer walls of Shiganshina. As an Ackerman, Kenny awakened his Ackerman instinct at some point in his life, which led to him realizing that he was a cut above the rest. With time, he began to desire more and more power, which gradually stripped away his empathy and compassion entirely. He did not hesitate before killing women and children, and enjoyed showing off his strength. Due to the state-sanctioned persecution of his clan, Kenny got the perfect excuse to go after the military police. This made his actions come off as something he did out of retaliation to avenge his kin. In reality, however, he just wanted to show off how invincible he was and get even stronger in the process. Despite Kenny's cold nature, he cared a great deal for his ailing grandfather, who told him the truth about the Ackermans at some point. For his sake, he would often kill the MPs who were harassing the elderly Ackerman. He also cared for his immediate family and his best friend, Uri Reyes. Why is he called Kenny the Ripper? How does his bloodline assist him in this? The nickname is very literal here, as Kenny would rip the throats out of his victims with a knife. This name is inspired by that of the infamous London-based serial killer Jack the Ripper. Similar to Jack, Kenny was always able to evade capture and eventually went on to become an urban legend among the people of the capital. It's important to remember that Kenny is from a generation that precedes Levi's and Mikasa's by a great margin. He didn't have access to the same level of arms and technology as the others. He mostly used a knife to get the job done, unlike his other clansmen in the story who operate ODM gears using dual swords and explosives. Paradise is far from being technologically advanced, but the technology they did manage to develop within their humble means was enough to allow non-Ackermans to have a winning chance against Titans and other opponents. However, Kenny's name became a symbol of danger as a result of the acts he committed with his knife alone, without him having to blow up anything or chop anyone into pieces. Had he not been an Ackerman, his shenanigans with the knife would have not only gotten him bested, but he also would have probably gotten captured at some point. But he didn't, because his bloodline gave him access to superhuman strength, speed, endurance, stamina, and the likes, alongside the battle experiences of his ancestors. As Kenny the Ripper, he was able to kill over 1,000 MPs due to his bloodline-imposed powers. He has also canonically experienced the Ackerman awakening more than once, and is not part of a generation that was completely in the dark when it came to the truth about the Ackerman lineage. With his ambitious but ruthless personality, Kenny's ceiling went higher and goals went farther with time. The key event, however, would be his altercation with the founding Titan and king within the walls, Uri Reyes. Kenny tried to take Uri out with his knife, but he was demolished by the latter. Following this, Uri bowed to Kenny and apologized for how the system had persecuted the Ackerman clan. Witnessing a king and such a powerful being bow to a man like him was shocking for Kenny, who realized with time that the way Uri saw the world was very different in comparison to how he saw the world. While Kenny was more aggressive and cutthroat, Uri was more compassionate and a pacifist. This was due to the vow of Karl Fritz, which bound Uri's will to that of the king's. But Kenny didn't know that. At some point, he began to think that if he turned into a pure Titan and consumed whoever owned the founding Titan, he would also be able to become powerful and compassionate like Uri. Following Uri's death, the founding Titan was passed down to Frida, then Grisha, and finally Eren, who was well acquainted with Uri's niece, Historia Rhys. Because Historia's father wished to feed Eren to Historia and bring back the founding Titan to the royal family, Kenny began to work alongside Rhys and helped capture both Eren and Historia. However, Kenny was not interested in Historia eating Eren. He wanted Rhys' plan to take off so that he could sweep in at the appropriate time and get the pure Titan serum for himself. He hoped to turn into a Titan after that and swallow Eren to gain the power of the founding Titan. Despite his bloodline being the thing that allowed him to have such far-sighted goals, it eventually betrayed him and became one of the primary reasons behind his inability to attain this goal. Can Kenny defeat Titan shifters? Why is he not in the Survey Corps? Kenny never joined the world of battle to fight Titans. He mostly didn't care about the pure Titans outside the walls and was focused on killing the people within the walls instead. However, if he had access to the technology and equipment that the characters from Attack on Titan consistently use, Kenny would easily be able to go against Titan shifters. The best way to scale this would be by bringing Levi into the mix. Levi deserves his nickname as humanity's strongest, especially with him besting Titan shifters with ease. Even Levi had trouble fighting Kenny when the two first met after a long time during the first half of the third season. The only thing that might have deterred Kenny from fighting Titans would be his very first altercation with a Titan, who just so happened to be the founder and not some fodder abnormal from outside the walls. It's hard to imagine a man with Kenny's personality working under a government organization, but this is what made the military police the ideal fit for him. He never had to be involved with the matters at hand as much as the Survey Corps, but he had the state backing him up. He eventually created his own anti-personnel squad, with whom he jumped Levi and captured Historia and Eren for Rhys, only to sweep in and get his own hands on the Titan serum. Could Kenny have become a Titan? Ackermans are products of Titan science conducted by Eldians in Eldia during the days of Eldian glory. They existed prior to the events of the Great Titan War and were created accidentally. Similar to shifters though, Ackermans gained their superhuman strength as the experiments allowed them to tap into the power of the Titans. However, they couldn't transform into Titans themselves. With Kenny injecting himself with the Titan serum, it would have amounted to nothing. He would not have transformed and gotten the chance to consume Eren and his founding Titan. His goal was a lost cause from the very beginning. The Ackermans' inability to turn into a Titan is confirmed in Season 4, where Eren turns every subject of Ymir who is not a shifter into pure Titans, but Mikasa and Levi continue to be humans. In order for Kenny to become stronger, he'd have to do it the traditional way and throw himself into several life or death situations where his Ackerman instincts would kick in and help him become more powerful, persevere, and survive. This means that Kenny would never be able to see the world the way Uri did. In fact, no subject of Ymir or person who was not part of the Eldian royal bloodline would be able to acquire the pacifist and seemingly compassionate mindset that Uri and Frida had due to Karl Fritz's vow. Whether such a pacifist mindset was compassionate or not would be a different discussion, however, since there isn't much compassion in allowing your own people to perish. Is Kenny stronger than Levi Ackerman? How is he related to him and Mikasa? Kenny is the brother of Levi's mother, Kuchel Ackerman. This makes Levi his nephew. However, Levi grew up in the underground city without knowing how he was connected to Kenny or even his own last name. When Levi's mother passed away, Kenny noticed a malnourished and famished Levi by his dead mother's bedside and decided to raise him. Since he was growing up in the crime-rampant underground city, Kenny taught him life skills in relation to wielding a knife and fighting. Once Levi grew strong enough to be able to sustain himself in a harsh environment, Kenny abandoned him, as he didn't believe he could ever be a good father figure. Meanwhile, Levi grew to resent Kenny, as he was the one who had gotten abandoned. With time, it was revealed that Levi was an Ackerman and Kenny was his uncle. At the same time, Kenny's conversation with his grandfather revealed that they knew about the existence and whereabouts of their branch family, who managed to survive the persecution by fleeing to the mountains near Wal Maria in the Shiganshina district. Because the Ackerman-ran businesses were ruined, the branch family also grew up in humble conditions. This family refers to Mikasa's side of the Ackerman line, as she grew up in the mountains of the outer walls. Overall, this gives Levi and Kenny a direct blood relation, while Mikasa and Kenny seemingly have a distant one. Now, because Kenny raised Levi for a while and taught him how to fight, Kenny was obviously much stronger than Levi at one point. However, with time, Levi grew stronger than his mentor, to the point where he became known as humanity's strongest while he was in the Survey Corps. Throughout the first 2 episodes, Levi also had the easiest time among every soldier when it came to fighting Titans. In Season 3, he took down the War Chief, or the Beast Titan, in mere seconds, but he still had trouble fighting Kenny. We see Kenny and Levi go against each other twice in the show, once during the beginning of the 3rd season when Kenny is introduced, and then again in the underground chapel after the Survey Corps raids the place to rescue Eren. In the first fight, Kenny is a few steps ahead of Levi from the very beginning, which forces Levi to flee during the first half of his fight. He then crashes into a bar, gets his hands on a gun, and focuses on Kenny's reflection on a bottle of alcohol to shoot him. Kenny is able to block the shot, but still lags behind as a result of it. This creates an opening for Levi, who is then able to take out several of Kenny's henchmen and even uses one of them as a human shield. During the second battle, several members of the Survey Corps, such as Levi, Mikasa, Hanji, Sasha, Jean, and Connie, fight against the members of Kenny's anti-personnel squad. When it's Levi's turn, he takes down his opponents with ease, but begins to struggle once Kenny steps in. He even gets mildly injured and has to force Kenny into causing an oil and fire explosion to sneak up on him. However, Levi eventually uses both of his swords to land a terrifying blow on Kenny, and he cuts across his abdomen region. All in all, Kenny was bested by Levi during their altercations within the story. However, Kenny was also a lot older than Levi during those times, which may have made him rustier. To top that off, Kenny didn't have access to the same gear in his prime as Levi has access to as a member of the Survey Corps. Why is Kenny Ackerman's death controversial? Could another Ackerman have survived? Despite the hype surrounding Kenny Ackerman, his death was more of him falling victim to the collateral damage caused by Rodriguez. He did not die because of Levi's abdominal slash or because he was killed, but because he got caught in the crossfire of Rodriguez's abnormal Titan transformation. The explosion was quite lethal, obviously, and we witnessed the members of the Survey Corps struggle with it. They were only able to come out alive because Eren had acquired the armor serum and hardened himself to protect his team. Meanwhile, Kenny had the misfortune of not being around Eren and being unimportant to his personal life. Following the explosion, Kenny was fatally wounded, as he prioritized getting his hands on another Titan serum from Rodriguez over his own escape. He spent his last minutes sitting by a tree, where he confessed his desire to become stronger and see the world from Uri's point of view to Levi. In the end, he passed the Titan serum down to Levi, and revealed that Kuchel was his sister, allowing Levi to know that Kenny was his family, and Levi was 100% an Ackerman. Kenny's inability to survive in this situation, however, was not related to his abilities or anatomy, but because of his affiliation. At the same time, it was an explosion Mikasa and Levi survived, as they were with Eren, who used his hardening to protect everyone. Even if they were not near Eren, the latter would still use his powers to protect them because they are one another's comrades. On the other hand, Eren and Kenny are nobodies to each other. Eren is also not the stereotypical shonen MC who wants to save everyone with the power of friendship. So, Kenny's demise was unfortunately brought by him not having the plot armor that comes with being close to the protagonist. In his defense, however, his death was very much necessary for the storyline to progress and for both his and Levi's character arcs. The scene by the tree was a beautiful send-off, and we also got to know a great deal about the Ackerman family, be it in their anatomy or their history. Marvelous verdict! What makes a character good and important is not so much their abilities, but more so their personality. Kenny's personality, which revolves around his desire for power and his need to show it off, starts his story. However, he was only able to start that story and feel these very specific emotions due to the anatomy he possessed as an Ackerman. Kenny is powerful because he's an Ackerman. Because he is an Ackerman and has a higher ceiling than the average person, he wants to acquire even greater power. It's a chicken and egg, an Ouroboros. This is a situation where one cannot exist without the other. That's all for today, but thanks so much for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.